So today I finally want to do something that is a little bit different, and this occurred during a conversation that I was having with one of my favorite people ever. And I just somehow made a comment about how I was trying to Xamsplain how to make something work on a computer. So then it was suggested to me that I turn this into a thing. So here is the first episode. I want to say that about a week ago, I read this one article via Twitter, and the title of it is Doctors Have Finally Ruled Menstrual Cramps Are as Painful as Heart Attacks. And I read the whole thing and I said, you know what? I guess I can see what they're trying to do, but I have to bring some things up. So, Xamsplaining means that I will use my personal experience to generate my own personal opinion, and I am, like always, I sit here and I just start talking about just how I feel about things. I don't really research anything. I don't really try to say that what I say here as a fact and that I have the right answer and you have the wrong answer and you have to agree with me, whatever. You can come here and listen to me and draw your own conclusion. So let's get started with this. I will link the article in the description below, but I will probably end up reading it so that you guys see where I'm coming from. So, beneath the title of Doctors Have Finally Ruled Menstrual Cramps Are as Painful as Heart Attacks, it says, we could have told you that. And this is on a website called Mary Claire. CBS also had their version of this article, but it had many ads and a video playing that I could not figure out how to minimize and shut it up, so I just went here. And okay, it starts off with, although we know that menstrual cramps, periods, pain, whatever you choose to call it, can feel like you're being repeatedly punched in the stomach from the inside out, explaining this to other people, generally men, can feel like a lost cause. Worried about being dismissively diagnosed by coworkers and friends with female conditions such as being delicate, dramatic, and oversharing, more often than not, we suck it up and suffer in silence. Add it to the list. So, honestly, in my personal experience, nobody has ever shut me down for explaining my situation. Given the job that I do, which is I have to be on my feet for 8 hours a day from time to time, and I say from time to time because sometimes I have an office work, I have to inform my supervisors of what's happening to me. So I tell them today I will need a like a 2-minute break at some point with a snack so that I can take a pill to minimize the effects of me being on that day of the month. They understand it, they don't judge me, and they say, whatever it is that you need, let me know. If you need to rest, let me know. So they accommodate me for this situation. So I guess the part of suffering in silence, it's you choosing to do that, because you can have a mature way of discussing this without having to be, oh, I'm feeling pretty weak today, so therefore it's okay for me to get away with not doing work. If you really feel that terrible, you should consider calling out. I have done it. So I just cannot feel sympathetic for you bringing up excuses as to why you cannot do something. Maybe I'm missing the point on that paragraph, but I have the blessing of being surrounded by great colleagues, and I can talk to them about anything, and they have never frowned at me for what I have to say, and not even my male colleagues. Of course, I limit the certain details of my condition, but most of the guys that I deal with are married, and they have their wives going through this, so they know what I am experiencing. They just tell me that whatever it is that they can do to make me feel better while I'm at work, they'll do it for me. So I cannot say that I can relate to that paragraph like that. Anyways, she says, but not anymore. Menstrual cramps, or I've never heard this word being said. Dysmenorrhea, as it's technically called, has finally been ruled as painful as having a heart attack. Professor of Reproductive Health at University College London, John Gilbert, I'm sorry, I can't say that, told courts that patients have described the cramping pain as almost as bad as having a heart attack. This is exactly the point where I started having a problem with this article. As a 20 something year old, I am, of course, classified as a young person. A young person is typically looked at as having very few health issues and being in the prime of life, our youth. You know, the benefits of being young is that if you do get sick and if you break a bone, you'll heal faster. But by saying that patients, in this case females, are saying that the cramping pain is as bad as having a heart attack. First of all, if you're getting a period, it's because you are in your reproductive years. To be in your reproductive years, you have to be a certain age, and on average, women are still getting their periods by the time they are 50. So around that age is when the more severe medical problems come about. So if you are a younger person going to the doctor and saying, oh my God, my cramps are as bad as having a heart attack, that is kind of a very false comparison to make, because you more than likely have not experienced a heart attack to be saying that that pain is as terrible as having a heart attack. I'm not saying that young people do not get heart attacks, because I know of an individual who is, I'm not sure if he's in his late 20s or early 30s, but he has actually had a heart attack already. So this day and age, it is possible for you to be experiencing severe health problems since any young age. And in my personal experience, I have very debilitating cramps. And usually when I get my cramps, because of hormone imbalances and a history, family history of anemia, I am susceptible to pretty much running out of blood. Not literally, but when you're anemic, you lose iron like crazy. So I have to be really careful about what my iron levels are at. So I do have to take a supplement. And you can tell when I have a deficiency because I may look abnormally pale. And I also feel overall weak. So when my periods come about, I make sure that I am on time with my iron supplement, because I know that I can pass out at any time and my iron can get dangerously low. So in addition, because of my hormone imbalances, I have this very sharp pain that sometimes it happens when I'm not even in my period. It happens on the days leading up to the period, or on a few days after the period, or during the period. But the pain is very immense. It feels like I'm being stabbed, but it's probably due to an ovarian cyst that I have on my left ovary. And it's been there, it's been detected since 2011, but I haven't been able to really address it because health insurance for me, it's pretty limited, and I cannot afford to be getting the medical treatment to deal with that thing. That, and I also do not believe in being drugged to address health problems. So I know that they were going to prescribe me with birth control pills, and I am not interested in doing birth control because I know of the side effects. And even though some sources are trying to say that depression, for example, is not a part of being treated for hormone imbalances, I don't believe that, because I feel like this negative of, say, depression being associated with certain medications that you take, it is now being said otherwise so that people do not feel afraid to undergo this treatment. And you know, that's just the health industry trying to make a dollar, in my personal opinion. So because I was already someone who was struggling with depression, I was not interested in ingesting something that could make my situation worse. So, given that I've described that, yes, I do know my menstrual cramps. Yes, they feel terrible. They suck. They are painful. They are crippling. I have been stuck to this bed sometimes from how bad my periods are, and I have had to leave work in the middle of my shift from how bad my situation got. So I am not saying that menstrual cramps are something that do not affect you. They do affect you. But what I am saying is that I have a problem with you comparing it to another medical condition that does, more often than not, result in a person being dead or severely affected by it on a neurological and physical level. Because having a heart attack is no joke. Usually, people who go through a heart attack, or excuse me, who have a heart attack, their lives change. They're not exactly the same as they were before they had a heart attack. Even their speech may be affected. So, when you have your period, your menstrual cramps, you have the blessing, in a sense, of being at an age where you can handle this. Nature is not going to throw something at you that you cannot handle. It's not going to give you like a menstrual issue that you cannot survive. You are designed to survive menstrual cramps. So every time I have had my situations that I just described about being, debilitated to the point that all I want to do is lay down, I knew that I would survive that. I knew that I was fine. I knew that this was part of my life. I know that it's part of my design, my body biological design as a female. And I knew that I would overcome it. That pain lasts only 4 to 5 days for me. It's not that all of my days are like that, miserable and in pain. So to say that menstrual cramps are as bad as a heart attack, I feel like it invalidates the actual danger and the actual severity of what a heart attack does to a person who suffers it. So that's why I don't sit there and I say that having my cramps feel like I'm having a heart attack. First of all, I don't know what having a heart attack is, and I know for sure that every time I experience my period, I come back to normal. I don't feel like I have suffered any physical or neurological consequences like a heart attack tends to do. So honestly, that line right there is really what triggered me to be like, okay, I feel like I have to make a video about this because, like I said, this is me just Xamsplaining. This is my personal opinion, my personal experience. Maybe they have a better point. They are trying to illustrate something that I am failing to see as someone who cannot relate to, it being a heart attackable like experience. So if you guys see where I'm coming from, let me know. I am not afraid of you telling me, hey, Zam, you're probably missing the point. What they're trying to say is whatever it is. But for right now, if you leave me alone with this, I cannot imagine myself thinking about this any differently. Because I understand the difference between a heart attack and menstrual cramps, although I have not suffered one of them. So anyways, I'll continue reading the rest. It's a very short article, so let's see what else they had to say. Although we're not overjoyed that a dude finally acknowledged period pain can be a condition so debilitating, its only comparison is a near-death experience. We'll take the improvement on the previous medical advice that recommended ibuprofen as good enough to prescribe. Ibuprofen does kind of work. It takes a second to kick in, but because it has crazy ingredients in it, I don't like to mess with it. What I personally like to do is take a papaya enzyme. For some reason, it works pretty well for me if I anticipate my period ahead of time. Because say, if I take the papaya enzyme while I am feeling the most terrible pain, it really won't do much for me. It will, but it might take an hour for it to make me feel better. But if I take it on the days leading up to my period, then it will work fine. But the challenge with that is that because of my hormone imbalance, my periods are incredibly irregular. They used to, from the first day that I got it until my late adolescence, they used to come between the 14th and 17th of the month. I have had it come to me on the 25th. The as of lately, it's been in the beginning of the month. Right now it's the beginning of the month and I haven't gotten it, so it's possible that it is shifting once again. And then it doesn't help that the month of February isn't exactly 30 to 31 days long, so that may throw my cycle timing a little off. But just so you get an idea of all the factors that can take place as to why every woman's experience with their period is a complete different story. So I cannot relate with this article because it's really generalizing a lot of things, and some women only have their periods for 2 days out of the week. Like like I have a friend who is like, when I saw my doctor, I would ask her if it's normal for my period to only last 2 days, whereas most people report that it lasts them 4 days. My periods tend to last 6 days. Like when it comes really, really, really bad, it's usually 6 days or sometimes the week, to where I see some spots and whatever. But you see, not every woman's experience is the same. I thought that it was impossible for a woman to have a period that lasts less than 3 days. But then I met my friend who is like that, and she's an incredibly healthy person. Great athlete, she eats super healthy, so maybe she has good genetics, and the fact that she's active and has a flawless diet just helps her. I cannot say that I have the flawless diet, but I am incredibly active. So that helps me. And ever since I exercise, I have felt better. But my genetics do not help me. My mother had the same issues that I'm currently having. And what helped her turn that around was having kids. Like she said, when I had your brother, my body just seemed to have completely reset itself. Like I didn't have any bone problems anymore. I didn't have any. My anemia, honestly, I don't remember any episodes of it. So it's interesting that now that my mom is aging, some of those problems are returning, but it's all due to age, and having kids helped her. So I feel like in my case, if I'm still healthy enough to have a child, because I don't know what's happening with my ovaries at this point, but if if my case is not endometriosis, then when I have kids, it's more than likely I won't have to worry about the issues that I'm experiencing right now. So that's why I put that out there and I share my story and my mom's story, because once again, even though she had her experience, it's still different from mine because we are two separate people. So all the women who read this article may or may not relate to it, and they will not relate to it 100%. So that is the point that I'm trying to illustrate here. And then, in fact, ignoring women's pain has been a concerning medical practice for well forever, with research showing that doctors generally take it less seriously than men's. Hell, the word hysterical stems from hystericus, meaning of the womb. Thanks for that one, society. Here's to a more open conversation around menstruation and a society that acknowledges the power of the period instead of ignoring it. John, you've made our good list. So, also, it doesn't help that this article sounds like it's trying to once again attack men in some way, shape, or form. Um, and honestly, I feel like as a person who has had her share of visits to the doctors before, it became um, inaccessible for me, anything that I said to my doctor, they took it seriously. So this lady, I don't know where she gets that our pain is not taken as seriously, but I don't know what to say on that one because I don't relate to it. If I said, I feel like, you know, I had, when I was an infant, I had to be taken to the hospital because I got bitten by some insect, and they gave me, or sorry, they used codeine on me, and it turned out that I was allergic to it. That's probably the worst medical experience that I have. But after that, I was never given codeine, never used it, never touched it, and I've never had any bad experiences when going to the doctor. So you see, you guys, that's why I had to say at the beginning of this video that this is going to be a massive Xamsplaining, because my experiences are not going to be everybody else's experiences, and I don't want to be misleading when I express myself here on the channel. You know that this is my absolute opinion based on my experiences, and that this is really my reaction to having read this article, and also the few women who I have had a woman to woman conversation about the changes in our body and how we all cope with our menstruation, for example. That also makes me feel like I have a few things to point out as to why I gathered this kind of a perception about this article. Because my audience is primarily male, I am not going to ask you guys directly like that, what do you think? But in the event that you decide to visit this article as I share it in the description, if you interpret it in a certain way that differs from mine, let me know. I'm not going to shoot you down. I'm not going to invalidate your opinion just because you are a man and cannot experience the physical effect of what this is. It doesn't mean that your opinion cannot have any value. There are male doctors out there who are excellent at what they do. They are male OB-GYNs. So I know that some guys out there know their facts. And if you have an opinion to share, don't be afraid to share it. I will listen to it. Because honestly, I have received great advice from men in the past, even pertaining to health issues. And we're different in that I can have babies. You guys cannot have babies, but I need you guys in order for me to be having kids, you know? So I feel like if you have an opinion, you should feel entitled to it. And if there is something that you would like further details on, don't be afraid to ask me. I will gladly share. But do not worry, this is not going to be the types of videos that I make very often. Like I said, this is a particularly special case because I read that and it gave me the certain impression. So I said, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. But yeah, you guys, let me know what you think. And if you have any sisters or mothers and they ever whine to you or explain to you what the whole period situation is like, don't be afraid to share that either. I would love to hear about it. Because unfortunately, I only have my mother's stories and maybe two other friends of mine who I used to be close with, and then a colleague who I would openly discuss this with. So, yeah, the more information that I get, the better, and the better at understanding things I will become. All rambling aside, thanks so much for tuning in to my video from today. Again, if you want to say something, say it. I'm not here to make you feel invalidated just because you're a guy, you know. But anyways, maybe more girls will watch this who are not even subscribed, so anything can happen. Alright guys, I should be returning with another video soon enough, maybe in a few minutes, because I happen to have noticed this link in my clipboard and I'm like, what is that about? So then that's when I remembered about this article, and that's why we have this video today. Alright guys, I'll see you soon.